Welcome to the Blackout Show, presented by the Guillen Grid, a show about the Chicago White Sox baseball, the good, the bad, the ugly. We'll debate what's working and what's not on the south side of Chicago. It's old school versus new school baseball. And most importantly, we're keeping all the receipts.
Welcome into the Blackout Show. We have a very, very, very special guest for you tonight on this edition as the White Sox take on the Houston Astros. I'm Slavko Bekovic, joined by Jay and Gonzo as always. The man that's coming on our show needs no introduction, but we're going to give him one anyway. The orchestrator of this beautiful picture, one of the best rotations in recent history in the playoffs. Let's go ahead and bring in former White Sox pitching coach Don Cooper to the show right away. Coop, thank you so much for joining us.
It's one of my favorite pictures, by the way.
Okay, well, it makes sense. They won a lot of games with you together.
One of my favorites.
How are things today? Where are you at? What are you up to these days? How much baseball are you watching? How much White Sox baseball are you watching?
Well, I still like baseball, the sport of baseball, but I'm not a fan of bad baseball. And I watch very little White Sox because that's what they're getting. I'll watch some. It's hard for me to watch a whole game. I channel surf. I'm sad because the Knicks and NBA is done. They were my team. I'm sad because the NHL is done because the Rangers were my team. So there's no more. So I'll probably be looking for a little more baseball to watch. I'll tune in for a few innings tonight and catch out and see what's going on in the White Sox game and any other matchup. If I see two pitchers that I like matched up, I might watch that one. The Dodgers and the Yankees are two teams that I like their lineups. I can watch those games a little bit. But that's it. I'm retired, and I live here in Nashville, Tennessee. Beautiful, beautiful country here. And I also spend some time in Florida, in Hudson, Florida. We just got a place right on a canal. My backyard is a canal, and I got to go down there because I got to get some seawall work done. I got to get my dock put in. I got to get a boat. So that's kind of my bucket list, one of my bucket list things that we're going to get done. But other than that, I just get up in the morning and do whatever the heck I choose to do, really.
You don't have to censor yourself on this show, so say whatever your heart pleases.
It might come out. That one there I held back, but I speak out.
Well, we're going to talk a lot about your days as White Sox pitching coach, a little bit about this year's team, which you do have some ties to still with some guys that are still around. But big picture when it comes to Major League Baseball and pitching in general, I think we've seen over the years the philosophy of pitching change, certain kind of, barometers that are changing with what people are looking for in pitching.
I know where you're going. Keep going, please. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
You're okay. I guess my question is, we seem to be in the world of high fastball, high velocity, and sweepers. Now we're hearing about the sweeper every other pitch. When you look at what you're seeing when you watch Major League Baseball today, what has changed for you in the landscape and the approach, the philosophy on the mound?
A lot of things, man. A lot of things. I'm kind of a baseball traditionalist in a lot of ways. I don't like some of the new rules. I don't like you can only throw over the first base a couple times. The clock. The only one I like is the clock. Make the game go. Because that's, as a pitching coach, that's what you're always encouraging and wanting your pitchers to do. The only guy that couldn't do it was really Freddie because, we talked about this with Freddie Garcia one time, and he goes, Coop, because Jerry Reinsdorf was always pet peeve. He works too slow. He's walking around. He's doing this. He's doing that. And listen, summer days, I'm not talking about hot summer days, where you might have to take your little time and get some breath. But I talked to Freddie about it, and Freddie said, I need to feel my arm to get ready to throw the next pitch. You know what I mean? So I understood when Freddie said that. Some guys, I think most guys are better working fast than slow. Some guys have to work a little bit slower than others, but not a snail's pace. I don't like you can't shift the defense. Hey, wait a minute. If I got a team and I'm the manager, I can put these 9 guys with gloves wherever the hell I want. If I want 2 of them sitting next to me on the bench, it should be allowed. I'm not a big fan of that. I don't like starters going an opener. I'm not into the opener. If you ain't got fight, go get a 5th starter then. Find a 5th starter, this opener guy. I'm not in favor of that. I'm not in favor of the starting pitchers throwing 100 pitches and they got to come out in the 5th. Because they're maxing out, like you said, for velocity. When you say that, what it means is you're minimizing command and where you're trying to throw it and the command of your pitches. You're just trying to throw the hardest fastball you can, and if it doesn't get to the spot, no big deal, and all of that. Listen, I am a guy that I like stuff too. I like guys who can throw hard. I like strikeouts. Hell, I had Chris Sale. He struck the world out one year for the White Sox. But guys like Chris Sale aren't supposed to come out after 5. If you're a good pitcher, you're supposed to stay in there for 6, 7, 8, and more. And that's what we got out of our guys. Like I was telling you before, look up the quality starts. And from 2002 to 2020, our guys were out there. And they stayed out there. And, listen, a lot of people talk about this, and it's true. The second round, I don't know, is that the ALCS? I don't know the second round of the playoffs.
That's ALCS.
But we won 5 games, and 1 reliever in 5 games threw 6 pitches. All the rest of the guys completed the dang game.
Yep.
And we had 4 complete games. Somebody top that now. I dare you. Nobody's ever going to top that because I come from an era where guys that were going out to start, they're making the money. They're supposed to stay out there for the length, and length to me starts at the number 6, no less than that. And that was going on the last 2 years of me coaching. Another thing was, like I said, we were great with keeping guys healthy, and we took pride in it. And I had a card every night, and I knew when guys pitched out of the bullpen, and how many times they pitched in the last 10 days, how many pitches they threw, how many innings in every outing, and not many of them went down. But now they're telling you, no, you can't use this guy tonight. You can't use that guy tonight. Try to stay away from this guy today. Wait, man, you're trying to win a Major League Baseball game, and at the end of the day. That's all it's about. You are what your record tells you are and what your numbers tell you are. And right now, the numbers in the record that the White Sox are showing everybody is saying, I heard the term the other day, historically bad.
Oh,
I hate it. I hate it. I hate seeing that. But that's kind of it.
So
I don't like a lot of the new stuff.
So, Coop, you and Slavko dabbled a bit into it. I want to get knee deep. You see the influx of injury with all these young pitchers trying to max out with velocity. They even had to open up a new spot on the damn IL because so many pitchers get hurt in a short amount of time. And most of them are still kids, can't even buy me any liquor at the liquor store. What would you do in regards to grooming these young guys to make sure that they stay healthy?
The same thing we did for 20 straight years and check the numbers. Again, we're the best in the business. We had a good trainer. We had a good conditioning guy, and we watched everything that they did. And we didn't target guys with guys that had delivery flaws. Delivery flaws. Bad mechanics, bad arm action, that is the number one reason for injuries. Now, you have a guy with a bad delivery and a bad arm action trying to heave the crap out of every pitch, you're going to blow sooner. Like, going back to your question, Slavo, or your statement, do you realize that Mark Burley wouldn't get drafted now?
Yep.
This is a guy that went 12, 13 years pitching 200 innings. Why doesn't people like that anymore? There's hardly anybody going 200 innings. That was a benchmark for us. That was pride. We all my guys, they wanted to get to 200, and so that's what we were. That's the way we were built. But it's working the deliveries, getting their deliveries right. But in the draft, I had some input in the draft, and we would stay away from guys that had major flaws and injuries that I knew he's not going to be able to maintain this. He's not going to be able to sustain it. Bad deliveries put strain on your arm and stuff like that, but it also doesn't help with your command and your ability to throw the fastball, breaking ball, changeup where you want. There is no more changing speeds. I don't see a lot of changing speeds. Now, that's what Burley did all day. He had 4 different pitches that he could throw anywhere, and he threw them all for strikes. Here's something for you guys to remember. I had the best seat in the ballpark to watch the best players in the world play what I consider the best game on the planet. I saw them all. The top guys, what they did better than everybody else, they poured their shit in. They threw it over. And right from the get-go, and not to say every game was great or anything like that, but that was our philosophy. We're pouring it in, and you got to deal with us, and we're going to get ahead. We're going to be aggressive. We're going to make you hit the first, second, or third. And if you don't hit the first, second, or third pitch, we got you by the neck. It's 0-2 or 1-2. The only way you get out of the trap we just put you in is if we fail to execute a pitch. And when we had our good teams, I'm not talking rebuild years. When we had our good teams, we had guys that could do that. And people ask me, we talked about this briefly before, the best parts of the day for me was preparing for that game that night, the sidelines, conversations anywhere we were having those conversations, and that was and the sidelines and the bullpens and the work days and trying to get better. Another name for sidelines could be get better day. Pitching is an acquired skill, and you've got to hone those skills. You've got to work on it. You can't just think about it. Oh, it's going to get better. No, you got to go out and get up your ass and let's go work on that fastball in on a lefty's hands. Let's go work on that slow breaking ball we're going to drop in first pitch to guys and things like that. So that's the stuff I enjoyed.
Coop, when it comes to analytics and all the data available in the modern game of baseball, where should the emphasis be in regards to pitching, and what type of data should you shy away from? Strike
the balls. If you listen, when a guy pitches a good game, when you see the box score in the papers in the morning, Verlander went 8 innings and he threw 100 pitches, and I'll guarantee you 70 of them were strikes.
Yep.
It's 2-1 strike the balls. Like Johan Santana used to blow me away because this guy was getting 3-1 strike the balls. So when you're throwing your shit over, you're giving yourself every chance to compete and play and win and do well. When you see a guy, he's in the 6th inning and he's got 100 pitches and 50 are balls and 50 are strikes. Well, hell, I can get a beer vendor to throw 50%. But that game is going to be a struggle because he's not pouring them in, and there might be some games like that. But you're looking for strike 1. You're looking for 2 of the first 3 pitches to be called strikes or swinging strikes or balls in play. You're looking for the first out in each inning because I don't give a shit what you get into after that. You're a ground ball away from being out of it. And now ground balls aren't looked at. They want swings and misses and strikeouts. I mean, to have a ground ball pitch is a weapon in your pocket. You think Burley got a lot of ground balls. Garland got a lot of ground balls. Freddie got a lot of ground balls. It used to be we would target guys that had ground ball ability in our park, especially in our park, but in all of baseball, because I've yet to see a ground ball leave the yard. You know what I mean? So and you got 9 guys with gloves. Somebody will catch it. And if they don't, if it's a ground ball hit, don't worry about it. Keep getting it. Sooner or later, they're going to go out at people. But now, if they're gappers leaving the yard, well, we've got to look at the quality of pitch you just made. It's probably not a quality pitch. It probably wasn't located. But that's kind of those are the numbers, right? I wanted all the numbers, but there were certain numbers that were key to me. Here's one, a batting average. If I saw a batting average against us, first 2 numbers had to be 2.4, couldn't be above that. Couldn't be 2.5, 2.6, 2.7, 2.90, 2.3, you know what I mean? I wanted our team batting average to be 250 or below. We were good with not walking people too.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't. You just you hear it. I hate the saying, walks will hurt you. No shit, walks will hurt you. In our park, if you walk a guy or two and they hit a fly ball, the ball jumps. It's one of the better offensive places in baseball. U.S. Cellular, if that's the name of it now. I think they changed.
Guaranteed rate now, Coop.
Yeah, C-Ray, whatever it is. Whatever. I didn't give a shit. I just knew how to get there. I knew where I had to park my car for 20 years, and I knew where my locker was. That's all I needed.
So that 2005 team, you alluded to the openers that you see now and pitchers just in general not going deep. So that team obviously known, especially in the playoffs, for getting deep into ball games, complete games, something that we don't think we'll ever see anytime again. When you look at how the game has changed to jumping into the bullpen quickly, more bullpen innings, openers, do you think we'll ever see anything like that 05 run in the playoffs ever again?
I dare anybody to match it. Okay? I dare anybody to match it. If somebody matches it, I'll kiss your ass. I don't believe it's going to happen. But as you were saying that, I was thinking to myself, well, when you look at Houston, hey, man, they had 2, 3 guys, 4 guys that can go out there and give you 6, 7, 8 innings. That's going to save the bullpen. If you're bringing everybody in the 4th inning, I guarantee you're wearing the ass out of the bullpen. You know what I mean? And that's not where I'm coming from with any of that. I wanted guys that could go length, and that way we have our best bullpen guys ready in the key situations. We had our main guys ready if the game was, if we were down a run, tied, or above, depending on the inning we were at. It kind of helps you. Listen, I used to say that 7 innings was the magic number, because every team has a closer. So that 1 inning, the 9th is taken care of. You're going to call on the 9th. All you had to do, the only decision you had to make was, all right, who's coming in to pitch the 8th? And that reminds me of another rule I don't like. I used to like the strategy and looking at lefty-righty stuff, and bringing in that specialty, quote-unquote, specialty lefty. That role doesn't exist anymore. You have to be, because now you got to stay in for 3. Listen, again, why are they doing all of these rules? Why are they changing that? Why are they changing you can't move your defense? You know why? They're trying to enhance the offense. They've been doing it for quite some time. They've lowered the mounds. There's no foul territory. The fences are closer. The strike zone's smaller. There's so many things that are being built in to try to help offenses. I'd like to see now, because of the changing of you can't shift. I had thought when I heard that was really going to help hitters, but especially left-handed hitters, because we never really pulled a lot of big shifts on righties. But there'd be a lot of left. I remember Delgado was a guy we always, just going back now, the guy Carlos Delgado from Toronto. We had like everybody on the right side of the field. But then it was up to us to make sure the pitches we were throwing him induced him to hit it to the right side of the field, you know. But I'm not a big fan of that, you know. But pitching still seems to be dominating. The strikeout numbers are ridiculous, and that's because of their sabermetrics and stuff, and trying to swing up and hit fly balls. You know fly balls leave the park. You know, that was my saying. If you're a fly ball guy, when I was pitching coach, man, you better get some strikeouts too, because fly balls leave in our park. And I don't think people talk enough about that either. That the park is a very offensive park, especially when the weather warms up.
So, Coop, earlier in the show, you talked about how you enjoyed the sidelines, a lot of the baseball prep. Who was one of the guys that you got your hands on day one and you molded into a big league pitcher and it made you proud as a coach?
Well, let me say this.
Who was your guy?
Let me say this. That's a good question. They do it themselves. They're the guys doing the work.
Yeah.
You know, am I helping? I hope so. I mean, that was my goal for everybody. I wanted my guys to maximize their gifts. Everybody in the big leagues is gifted. You know, I'm telling you. And some guys are gifted more than others. But you want to maximize those gifts. Those gifts are given to you by God. You want to work them. So I was trying to help them bring out their best. I wanted guys with me to have their best career years with us when they were with us. So it wasn't me doing it. Those guys are the ones that made the pitches. But I think I could look at a little bit of a Loiza. I could say Loiza. Did I mold him? No. When I got him, he already had X amount of years under his belt. Contreras was a guy, I think. I think Sale was a guy. Burley was on. The real good ones, like Burley was a good one. We had some things to talk about for sure, but sometimes good coaching is staying out of the way and not doing too much. But those are some guys. I mean, I think Cliff Polite was a guy that he had a career before us, but he had his best year with us. And I think it was a confidence thing. I think Matt Thornton. Matt Thornton is a guy I could say yes. There's one, because I can remember telling Kenny Williams he was a first-round pick for Seattle, and it wasn't going good for him out there. And I saw him come in and pitch an inning against us, and he had a really good arm, but it just wasn't working for him. And we had a guy, I think it was Joe Borchardt.
Yep.
And I remember telling Kenny, I said, if you can get him, I can help him. And we wound up getting him, and he did very well for us. I think he even made an all-star team one year, but he couldn't throw enough strikes. So okay, let's look into this. Let's delve into it. You know, and then as I say that, I think of another thing we used to delve into all the time. Okay, well, when I saw let's say Burley, and I'm just using his name. It wasn't like this. Let's say the batting average for lefties against Burley was 290, but against righties it was 240. I'm just throwing hypothetical numbers out there, but I'm giving you an example. We would delve into why are these lefties hitting 290 off you? Let's look at it. What are we doing? What might we have to change? What might we have to add in? What might we have to put on the back burner to try to improve that number? And, you know, let me tell you, every day, we were never like wondering, we can't find anything to work on. We found it every day. We knew what we were doing every day with that. And, you know, those are the numbers. You might ask me before about numbers, Gonzo. Those were the numbers I was looking to improve on. You know, I was looking, because listen, hits and walks, you might want to write this down. Hits and walks make up runs. So we've got to be good in the hits and walk column. You know, if you're not good in the walk column and the home run column, you got problems as well. But it was hits and walks that we were constantly trying to attack and limit them, because then it came down to your stuff and your pitches versus that hitter and our defense. And again, if ground ball hits and finding holes, don't worry about it. That's going to be all right. There you go. Right there you go.
Simple game, right?
No, you got to put down hits and walks equal runs.
There you
I read
go.
out of paper. I read out of paper. Cool.
Hits and walks make up runs, so you got to try to limit them. And, listen, I'm not scientific. I wanted all the freaking numbers, but I wasn't a science guy. I was a coach. And as I'm saying that, I got to tell you what I'm thinking about. The whole world now is relying on the science. How's that working out for everybody? Huh? How's that working out? Science. Baseball is scientific now. You're playing this game with men, and the bench is an awful cool place, because you see them at their best moments. You see them in their lowest moments. You know what's going on in their world and what's happening right at that moment with guys. And that goes with, great stuff. Well, they're not in a great spot right now. And that was all fun. It actually was the whole process. Listen, another thing just popped in my head. I want to clear something up, because I don't think it's clear to a lot of people. I was with the White Sox for 34 years, I think. 20 of them in Chicago. 15, the other ones down 15 in the minor leagues, looking to get my opportunity, my break, by working hard, getting results and all of that stuff. But I forgot where I was going with that, but it'll come back to me. I'm getting old, so I'm forgetting stuff. Like Biden. So, but it's that's the way we ran stuff then. It's not scientific stuff, and that sickens me, to tell you the truth. You're not playing with, these guys aren't scientists, they're athletes. So treat them like athletes.
Coop, you probably had over 50,000 mound visits. Which one
with Gavin Floyd alone?
Which one probably sticks out to you the most in your career? Which one would you say, ooh, I remember that one?
First of all, whenever you go into the mound, something good ain't going on. I'm not going out there, you know what I mean? Something bad is not good. I'm looking to shake something up or get their minds right, get them focused on what we're doing right now. You got to stay in the moment, you got to, because each pitch matters. But I remember there was one in Minnesota with Garland and AJ. And I remember just going out there, because Garland was like picking, not being aggressive enough. Picking, maybe falling behind, and just not pouring it in.
Right.
Nibbling.
I just remember going out there, what in the fuck are we doing? And, they said something. I said, how about we go about just attacking? And that was one. There wasn't. I'm trying to think if there's any others. Oh, here's one I remember. El Duque. Not the inning he had the bases loaded in Chicago. I'm sorry, in Boston in the playoffs. Not that inning. That wasn't it.
We'll get
there. Was
there.
Another inning somewhere. I don't remember who was against right now, but I remember going out there, and in Spanish, I told them there's nobody I would want in this situation more than you. Nobody. And then, I said, let me watch you go. And after he got out of it because he was good. I would have liked to have him when he was in his heyday, when he was young. We got him that near the end. But I remember him liking that a lot and telling me that many times after that. I remember him saying something like, that's what I want to hear. That's what I want to hear. Stuff like that. I'm not going out there to kick anybody's ass or anything or yell at anybody, I'm simply trying to get, all right, hey, what are we going to do right here? What do you want to throw first pitch? So-and-so's up there. I might go, hey, here's his weaknesses. Here's what we could do this, and this. But what do you want to throw first pitch? Because I want him focused on that pitch. if you listen without focus and commitment as a pitcher, this is the mental side. You can't have execution. Not at the level a major league guy has to have execution.
Yep.
You know, I was looking for 65 to 70% strikes with every pitch, and that's not easy, man. And I'm looking for 2-to-1, at least 2-to-1 strike the balls every game. Now, our standards, or what we were preaching and what we were trying to achieve and how we were going to go about it, we never lowered the bar. If you fall behind us, no, we know. I don't care what situation it is. We're coming at this guy, or we're gonna, we'll have you walk him. If you're not walking the guy, we're coming at him. And we had guys. We had the 05 staff, 06 staff. They were good. They were good. They were studs. And I'm sitting up in I don't call it the baseball room. It's just a room up here. And I'm looking at Garland, Burley, Freddie, and Contreras right there. I'm looking at 6 bottles of booze for no hitters. We had about
good.
We had a couple perfect games, and we had no hitters too. And that, don't get me wrong, that's those guys that went out there to do that. And, they represented us well. The further I get away from 05, I'm more and more grateful to the players. What I was going to say before that I wanted to straighten out, and I lost my train of thought, was I'm a grateful, thankful guy for all the opportunities I was given. With the White Sox, to be in the major leagues, all of those things. Extremely grateful and thankful that happened. But you know what? I earned every fucking minute of it. And for 20 years, they didn't have to worry about it. How they making out now?
Oh, man.
So, Coop, let me
Ozzy and I should come back tomorrow. Start that push.
We'll start it.
I'm rested and ready.
So, Coop, let's stay right there with El Duque. In our show intro, we showed El Duque's bases loaded moment, his amazing escape against the Red Sox in that clutch moment in the divisional series. Tell us your memories of that inning and how it all transpired.
Well, how it all transpired was we were in a jam, and he was the guy. We brought him in, and I'll backtrack that a little bit because before the playoffs started, there was a big conversation, and I remember this big conversation, and I heard people talk about it, and they got it wrong. It was me, Ozzy, Jerry, and Kenny. Kenny and Jerry wanted McCarthy to be on the team. I had nothing against Brendan McCarthy. Ozzy was just there. And I'm arguing with both of those guys. We're going back and forth with Kenny and Jerry. And finally, I was like, I said this to Kenny. I said, Kenny, you freaking called me up in January and told me we're getting El Duque because of his experience in the playoffs. I said, well, they're starting tomorrow. And then that was it. That's all I said. And he's on it. That would have been a big boo-boo to not activate, not because he got the guys out in that inning, but we acquired him for that reason. And now the playoffs are starting. Now, he wasn't going to start for us because we had starters at that time. And, there's only 3 or 4 starters you need in the playoffs. You know what I mean? So, but he came in that inning, and baseball and pitching, he didn't give a rat's ass about. He was extremely competitive guy. I never had anybody more competitive and ready to fight than this guy. And he went out there. He said, baseball, nothing to worry about. Look at me. I swim from Cuba. That was fear. And if you get caught, you're going to jail, or your family's going to jail, or you're going to drown going from Cuba to Miami. He did that. And it's quite a story if you hear it. And so baseball wasn't something that rattled him. You know what I mean? He was good and calm in every situation, because if you watch those pitches, he might have thrown 2 strikes.
Yeah.
They were swinging at everything else, because I think the moment may have gotten the best of those guys, but it didn't get the best of El Duque. He was comfortable, calm, went out there, did his thing. And what people forget, he went 2 more freaking innings. That wasn't the only inning.
Yep.
But we were up 2-zip games. You know, we had the world champions by the neck, you know, and when he got out of that, I guarantee you that was a bit of a freaking letdown to them. You know, in Boston, the place is roaring. They're anticipating a big inning, and like what's that show? Family Feud. Didn't happen. Didn't happen.
So we wanted to get into some specific guys that you coached or worked with. We got a question from Todd on Twitter. He said, "How the heck did you get Gavin Floyd to pitch so well in 2008?"
You know what? That's a name. You brought up that's a name I could have brought up. Gavin Floyd needed more strikes, you know. And listen, the answer, it's going to sound crazy, but the answer to a lot of guys' problems is throw more strikes with your shit. Command more fastballs to where you got to throw it. Throw your breaking ball more for strike, called and swung. Same thing with the changeup. I would say this, that Gavin Floyd and Contreras were the 2 guys I could visibly see getting better, because I'm with them every day. I'm with them on their sidelines. I'm with them on their pre-games, and I'm with them during the game, you know, watching everything, all of their pitches. And then I'll watch it on video again, on top of it. And confidence is not given. I don't give people confidence. I can maybe help, but that confidence has got to come from within that guy. And here's how it came from within for both of those guys. Because let me tell you something, boys. You got a good interview going here. When you see yourself doing things better, realistically, when you're throwing more fastballs for strikes, when you're hitting a spot that you couldn't hit before as well, and you're doing it with regularity now, that's confidence. When you're in the game now, you believe you can make that pitch. I'm going to make the pitch. Why? Because I just saw myself do it. I know I've done it. I saw that with both of those guys. As time was going, it was like, holy cow. You know, if you remember Contreras, and I'll go back to Gavin in a minute because he's a wonderful guy. Contreras couldn't throw it over. You know, he was walking the world. Everybody was stealing bases when he got on. It was a merry-go-round. Then all of a sudden, and you know what people would do? The opposing teams would take. They wouldn't swing at him early. They let him try to shoot himself in the foot, fall behind, walk guys. Well, all of a sudden, he wasn't doing that anymore because he was getting better. And now they had to change their approach, and now they were swinging early, which is playing right into our hands then. Great. We can't sabotage ourselves because you're going to be swinging. So all we got to do is make quality pitches, and we'll get you out. You know, listen, I said this before to people in conversations, like the Hall of Fame, it's strewn with people that made out 7 out of 10 times. So, you know, but if you get 3 out of 10, you're going to the Hall of Fame if you do that. So don't give the hitters too much credit. Attack them, you know, and that's what we did. But Gavin had a hell of a curveball, but he couldn't command his fastball. We made a few changes. I remember we made a few changes and they weren't big changes because he did things well. He had a pretty good delivery, and he had good arm action, which is key to any pitcher staying healthy and commanding. When you have bad arm action and a bad delivery, you won't be able to command. You're probably not going to stay healthy. You know, nothing good comes out of it. But when you have a good delivery and good arm action, you have a chance to command your gifts that are given to you. And some guys, like I said, Burley's number at the end of a game, the number I saw most on the fastball was 88 miles an hour. Now, yeah, he hit a 92, he hit 93, but the number I saw most was 88. And I'll give you another side of that. When I saw Chris Sale's changeup at 89, all right, no, back off, dude. You're coming out of your shoes too much. You're overthrowing stuff. But he on fastballs, you could also tell with him when he was trying to do too much. And we had talks about that, because when somebody's trying to tell me, well, I'm trying to do too much. I'm trying to do too much. Well, what you're really telling me is you're not trusting what you're doing in the first place. If you're trying to do too much, so it was a lot of it was common sense. I'm not talking any science here, am I? I haven't talked any science.
No.
This is the meat and the potatoes. If I came back tomorrow, my day would still be ruled by the numbers I'm searching for. Batting average, first pitch strikes, getting the first guy each inning, hold the other team after we score, 1, 2, 3 innings. If you have a chance, you know what I mean? And you're staying out there. Maximize your stuff. Maximize your physical stuff. I mean, the goal to me for a player is, again, you're all gifted. So it's our job to maximize the physical ability that God has given you. And then we have to maximize the command of those physical gifts that you've been given. And it's a never-ending process. You're never going to stop in the big, if I got a guy for 20 years, I guarantee you for 20 years, we're trying to get a little bit more. You always got to be shooting something. But Gavin Floyd was an interesting dude, and he just needed some confidence. He knew he had good stuff, but he didn't trust himself to be able to throw it over on a consistent basis, I think. And I think he proved that to himself, not to me. I didn't tell him words that made him do it. We got up off our ass and did it and practiced it. And that's why bullpens are a fun part of the game for me, the stuff and the conversations that go on out there. One thing I got to tell you, I thought about this a second ago when you're asking me a question. It wasn't uncommon. In 2005, our starting pitchers, and I've told this story once and then people ran with it. I'll tell you guys here. It wasn't uncommon for our starting pitchers who weren't pitching that day to enjoy a cocktail on the bench. And I had a wine. Okay, they wanted to do Burley. They wanted to get Burley to endorse a wine and put his picture on a wine bottle. People that I know growing in Chicago. These are small business. It was called Windy City Root Beer. It's no longer in existence. So one guy operation. They wanted Burley to do it because Halliday, the year before that, he had a wine, and it was all for charity. Nobody was making any money, and they wanted Burley to do it for, his agent got involved. It didn't work, and they asked me to do it. The guy, hey, would you do it? I said, if you think it'll make a few dollars for charity, sure. So they did it, and they put my picture on a wine bottle. It was called Coopernay, and one night, Freddie comes behind me, and it had to be like in the 5th to 6th inning, somewhere around there. It wasn't early. And I'm sitting in my spot, and I hear talking, and I smell, hey, what's that? And I turn around to Freddie, and Freddie tips his glass over, and it shows me it's wine. He goes, Coopernay. He just told me Coopernay. I said to him, then it's allowed. It's for charity. But our guys would like that if they weren't playing. They had a drink or two, and they would always try to get me to have some. But the story I like to tell too, and I the first one to let this one out. When Burley came in to save the World Series game, I guarantee he had a 6-pack in him, at least a 6-pack. But I don't know how, but for sure because he wasn't pitching that night, and I remember telling him, "Hey, if it goes like 11 or 12, we may need you. Because I knew it. I saw it all happening, and son of a gun if it didn't. And he was the last guy we had. And he went out there and nailed down the game. I think it was game 3. Yeah, it was game 3.
Yep.
It was game 3. So we were a good bunch. We were a fun bunch. We were a loose bunch. And we were a fucking good bunch. That bunch won a world championship. That bunch made me a world champion. And forever, I'm grateful for that. And again, the farther I get from it, it's all about those players that went above and beyond the call to get it done. Because I remember people saying it was about 2 months left in the season, and Cleveland was hot. Cleveland was coming. And they were on our ass. They were on a tail, and people were talking about. Now the story wasn't how good we were. The story was how much of a noise are we going to make when we crash. That was the story. Well, that didn't happen either. We held off Cleveland. Hell, we won 99 games that year. We were never bad. Cleveland just got really hot. And I remember clinching in Detroit with 3 games left. We clinched, and then we had 3 games left against Cleveland, who was still in the hunt, by the way. We were in. They were trying to get in. And we kicked their ass for 3 days. And I remember saying on the bench, because there was a time when I thought we got tight, a little tight, offensively, I thought. It was hard. Hitting's hard. But I think they were getting on our offense. And we're not scoring, blah, blah, blah. Because I think there was some pressure going on. And then I remember playing Cleveland, and they had the tight asses. They were nervous. They knew it was on the line, and we went out and kicked their ass. But I remember saying, see that? That's what we looked like. That's what we were looking like. But once we clinched, it was all over. It was like we had saw death, and we didn't die. We were getting close. Not by our own doing, because, again, we won 99. But we saw death, and we were no longer afraid. And we cruised. The playoffs, the toughest thing is to get in the playoffs. Once you get in, anything can happen, and magic can happen. And we were lucky enough to be a part of that.
Another question from one of our loyal followers. Gabe says, give us your best Mark Burley story and your best Chris Sale story.
Chris Sale first. And this is not my best. This is the one that comes to mind. It's not easy for all of them to pop up. But I remember Chris Sale. Remember when they had the K Club? They had the K Club
out in left field.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, man, yeah. And he was striking out the freaking world, and they were swinging early, so they wouldn't strike out. But he still was striking out 12 or 13 guys. That tells you how freaking good he was. And at one point, when he was with us, right before leaving, his numbers were better than like Koufax and Spahn and Carlton for that amount of time in the big leagues. That's how freaking good he was. But I remember him, he goes, can we talk? I go, yeah, come on, certainly can. He goes, I'm putting so much pressure on myself. I go, well, why are you doing that? He goes, well, the K Club, I want to give them what they want. I want to strike out guys. And, Dad, it was piling up on him, I think, a lot of things. Because at that time, he was probably, him and Quintana were our 2 best bets, because we was kind of just ready to start the rebuild before we traded him. And, so that was going on. And, we talked. I said, well, Chris, how old are you? And he says, 23. I said, well, you just being yourself for 23 years, right? It's worked out pretty well for you, right? He goes, why don't we just do that? Why don't we just be you? You know, and that's the one I remember the most. I got one now. It just came to me. It's like his third start in a year he's starting, the first year he's starting. We're out in Oakland playing the A's. And he comes running in after an inning. And he says to me, "You're not going to believe this. You're not going to believe this." I said, "Try me. Well, what do you got?" He goes, "I'm flipping it in there at 91 miles an hour, and they're doing nothing but pounding in the ground. For ground balls. I'm going to keep doing that." I said, "So simple yet brilliant." But we had to come up with a plan for him because he was coming out after the 6th innings because he's striking out so many guys, and he wasn't walking many guys at all. But he's striking out so many guys that his pitch total's getting up. I said, we have to come up with a hybrid, meaning there's got to be some innings and sometimes where we got to get the pitch total back. Well, and how we got it back and how Burley got it back. Hey, I'm going to flip my changeup and I'm going to flip my two-seamer and get him to hit the first one. And you know what? They were able to get earlier, quicker outs. They were more efficient. They go longer in the game. Chris Sale, he was a star. And the top guys, and Burley was a top guy, and Garland was a top guy, and Contreras was a top guy, during some times. But those top guys, they're not supposed to come out after 4th or 5th innings because the pitch totals. They're supposed to stay in the game longer. So we had to examine how could we do that? What might we come up with? What might we have to think about? Because without thinking about it, without laying it out on the table and trying to figure it out, it ain't going to get better on its own. So that's my coming off the mound in Oakland. He was, let me tell you, he was the best guy. He came right to the big leagues. I think him and Gordon Beckham, they rode the bus once in the minor leagues. Now Burley, let me think. There's so many of Burley. Okay, here's one that just comes to mind. And they're hard to think about. You have to sit down and
Well, there's probably a million of them.
But it was one where Burley, he had a nice contract. He was making money, and I looked at him one day, and I go, "You're a fucking millionaire." And he looked at me back. He goes, "Multi." multi. He's multi. What a bunch of good guys. What a bunch of good kids. I listen. They were all good. I had so many people cross my paths and come into either I come in their lives or they're coming into mine. All worlds are colliding. They're coming to me. For whatever reason, they're with us. And I don't believe in stuff being like that feather flying around in Forrest Gump. I believe things happen for reasons. People are brought into other people's lives for reasons. And I always thought the reason was for me to try to get the very best I could out of my guys by creating the best freaking environment that I could, where they could be themselves, where we can talk about anything, and we're going to examine everything, and we're going to look to try to get better, and it's the best time of their lives. I wasn't going to be the guy that was going to fuck that up. That's for sure. I'm looking to try to let that smooth sailing. It was okay for me to say things about my pitchers because I already told them. I'm not never talk out of school. But I'm ready to wrestle if somebody else was saying something about them because they don't fucking know. Let me tell you something. The writers don't know. I love when I hear, well, it's a great clubhouse. You're not in the club. You're in the clubhouse for 10 minutes. You don't know our clubhouse, what the mood is and what's going on. They act like they're there, and I just never really went for that much either.
Coop, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be as transparent as I can. Almost passed out when you came on the show. Absolute fucking legend. Thank you for joining.
It's been my pleasure. I'm enjoying this. I got to tell you, I'm enjoying it because I don't get a chance to do what we're doing right now a lot. And I'm glad I did it. I'm glad we're doing this.
We appreciate it.
I'm enjoying it.
He has no hitters, perfect games, 6 packs, and emergency relief. Is there a Hall of Fame pitch for Mark Burley? Cool.
For me, he's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
For me, because now, with times changing, guys aren't going to be playing long enough to be Hall of Famers. With what Burley did with his innings alone, the streak of 200 innings, that ain't easy, man. It's not easy physically or mentally for the people to do that. That's why he became a multi. We're not people don't hand those innings out. You have to be doing well enough to stay in the game long enough to achieve those numbers. And he did. So for me, he's a Hall of Famer, but by quote unquote, the standards of the last up until like 5-6 years ago, I'll say it's starting to change a little bit. Like I think Louis Tion should be in. I think Tommy John should be in. There's 2. It took longer for Bert Blyleven to be in than he should have been. He struck out over 3,000 guys. Maybe I don't even know the exact number, but that's dominance.
Yes.
To get into the Hall of Fame, you got to do what you're doing really well, whether it's pitching or hitting, for a long period of time to achieve that status. You're not going to do it for 2 years. Well, he was really good for 2. He was horseshit for 3, and then he came back for 2. It's not going to happen. And those 5 years could be great, but it ain't enough. Burley's a Hall of Famer for me. In my book, he's a Hall of Fame guy. That's for sure too. And I think he'll be looked at. Guys like that might start getting looked at more because nowadays there's not going to be many people coming around with those kind of numbers. The big numbers, winning 250 or 60 games or more. You're not going to see that. They're not playing long enough to do that. Like Verlander and Scherzer might be the last 2 guys that you see. I could be wrong with that because I don't stay on top of that. And another thing we were talking about before, hardly anybody goes 200 innings now. I think my last year coaching, which was 2020, the year before that, I think there were like 8 guys that went 200 innings.
Yep.
That used to be a badge of honor to do that. And I don't even know what our staff did. I know a lot of things we did in 05 and 6 and 7, but I remember how many innings Burley went over 200. I don't know where Garland was. I don't know where Freddie was. I don't know where Contreras was, as far as innings go. But innings will tell you a whole bunch right now. When you see a guy with a lot of innings, he's doing well enough to stay in the game.
Do you want to? I can tell you the numbers right now if you'd like for 05.
Go ahead.
Mark Burley, 236.
Stud.
Freddie Garcia, 228.
Stud.
John Garland, 221.
Stud.
Jose Contreras, 204. You had 4 guys over 200 innings in one rotation.
It makes me proud when you just said what you said because I really wasn't sure. Are any staffs over the last
Never
5-6 years doing that? 4 guys?
4 guys in one rotation.
There
No
was
shot.
one. The Baltimore Orioles had a staff, with Dobson and Cuellar and Palmer and McNally, and there was somebody else that I'm forgetting that I think they were a very, very good staff as well. Listen, all I know is those guys, you got to be a physical stud to do what they did. And you know what? They didn't miss a beat. They didn't miss a beat that whole year. They were steady. I got to tell you this, too. Somewhere about 20 games into the 05 season, we're winning games, man. We're playing good. Lady Luck is driving in our passenger seat, man. And we could be down 2-1. We wound up winning the game 3-2. There were close games, nail biters, come from behind, walk-offs. And I can remember saying a bunch of times, holy shit, this might be, how the fuck did we just win that game? This might be our year. and son of a bitch if it wasn't. You know, it was. I have a lot of memories, and I don't change them. I don't embellish them. I'm not changing the story to make it sound better. You know, like I was, you know, people over time, I don't know, they start to adding things on to some stories and stuff. I have my own memories that I hold very close and very dear, because that year was the most fun year that I ever had in as a coach, you know, and I enjoyed every year, but that one there, you know, it's like they say when you did it, they can never take that away from you. That's true. True that. I remember. Here's something now. I'll give you an not Contreras, El Duque story. We're going for after the game. The next day, after we clinched, okay, I go down. We're in Houston. I go down to get a cup of coffee, and he's online with me. He's behind me, and we're just talking. Yeah, hey man, world champions, whatever. You know, we're happy, and you know they're going to have the parade. And I say to him, you know what you did for that inning, because I knew then. I knew that right after he did it. I knew it. That's the most important inning in the White Sox history, in my mind. I can't think of somebody name one that's more important than that he got out of that. And I remember that he went 2 more, and we won that game. We clinched. You know, we're celebrating in Boston. But I tell him online, I go, you know, people in Chicago. He was a hero in New York. I'm from New York. I'm a New Yorker.
Mhm.
Haven't been there in a while. My mom's house is still there, but he was a hero in New York for what he did during the playoffs and how he stood up and was a stud. And they won some championships. I go, you know what? Now Chicago people will remember you forever. This is going to be huge, and the parade tomorrow is going to be huge. I was saying, and he looked at me. He looked at me like, man. After the parade, he sought me out. He goes, now I know what you mean, you know, because he saw 2 million people during that parade. And he still held very, very high regard, isn't he? You know, in Chicago for that inning. It's legendary, really. And that's just another individual moment that I got to see. I got to watch. And now you're making me think of this. I mean, we were celebrating once a week. We celebrated in Detroit when we clinched. We celebrated in Boston after we swept their ass, the world champions. We celebrated in LA big time after 5 games and all of those complete games. And then we celebrated 5 days later because we swept their ass in Houston. We were celebrating once a week, and my kids and family were in every one of them. In Boston, I had to put my daughter, who was like 3, up on a big soda machine so she wouldn't get trampled. My son was pouring, he's like 7. He was pouring Gatorade over his own head. I got to tell you this story, too, as he's making me say. We fly back after Houston, and there's 2 planes. One is for the players, the staff, and the other plane is for family and behind us. The staff plane landed first. While my son, who was 7, flew with me on the flight all the way back to Chicago. We land. We're waiting for the next plane because it's the wives and everybody else coming. 2 cops, 2 detectives. Okay, come on, sit in my car. It was cold. You know, sit in the car. And there was a newspaper in the back seat. So me and my son get in the back seat, and we're just talking. And I'm paging through the sports section. And son of a bitch, I get to the centerfold, and I see my son. He's in the picture in the centerfold. He's on my shoulders. You can't even see me, which I don't even give a rat's ass about. And we're in the middle of a celebration, and he's got a cigar in his mouth. And he still remembers all of that. But he was in the centerfold picture of not the Cub one. It's not the Tribune. What's the other one called?
Sometimes.
Sun Times. He's in the centerfold of Sun Times. And I opened the page. I said, hey, look at that. Look at this. So he looks at it. He sees himself. He doesn't say a word. He's not saying a word. And he slunk down all the way to the floor when he saw it. He couldn't believe it. And that's something I'll never forget. And we got the pictures somewhere. I got pictures, a lot of different pictures that I hold dear to me. That's one of them. But they got to be part of all of those celebrations. It was a blast, man. And I thank the players for that.
So, Coop, I'm going to ask you, my question at least is going to be wrapping up the past questions we have for you before we go to the current one. My last question from the past one is there any player you used to coach that you feel would have success as a MLB manager?
Any players that I coached that would have success as a major league manager? That's a different one, pal. That's a different
Or maybe even a pitching coach.
They make too much money. They make too much money as players to go through the bullshit. Nobody. Listen. I'd like to see one of the former players from 05 or 06, those years,
So,
like a Tommy, like a Frank, like bring Ozzie back. If you want to bring me back, bring me back.
I'm
AJ,
really interested in Willie Harris, but
AJ, and I wouldn't have said Willie.
Okay.
Not that I don't. I like Willie. Willie's a good guy, but I wouldn't have said Willie.
yeah.
Back then, I would. Who did I just say? I just said somebody, though. I would.
You said AJ, Tommy.
AJ probably before any of them. I don't think Frank would ever want to be a hitting coach or anything like that. The hitting coach is the toughest job, man. That's so hard because you're dealing with so much failure. You got. I always said, as coaches, you got to be bartender/psychologist on top of being a coach that knows his area. Because of the failure that's involved in baseball. It's the hardest sport, I think. But nobody comes to AJ. And listen, I will say this about Willie. I've heard that he's gotten some interviews. That he might have had some interviews. People are thinking about him. I pull for him, but I wouldn't have. His name wouldn't have came to mind. No, that's it. I forget the guy's name. We had a shortstop. I thought he was a pretty heady guy, smart guy. We had a shortstop that played for the Angels, and he played for us. I forget his name.
Orlando Cabrera.
Yes.
OC.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes. He's a guy. He's a guy that I said, okay, he knew what was going on. He knew what was happening. I thought.
So you said they make too much money to deal with the bullshit.
Describe
to us, what's the bullshit? What do you deal with? What's the stuff that kept you awake?
Well, listen, to a large degree. Now you made me think of this. The guy that got the biggest screwing was Rick Renteria. Okay, on both sides of town. Rick Renteria took the team. Every night he had and this is during a rebuild. And we sucked. Because we traded everybody that was worth the shit and we're giving out opportunities to a lot of people to play Major League Baseball that would not have gotten those chances anywhere else. And when they left us, and here's something to go, I dare you to find somebody pitching that couldn't do it with us and went somewhere else, and boy, they just blossomed. And it was great. Nah, it didn't happen. I'm not sure. Repeat your question.
So you said players today make too much money to deal with the bullshit.
Okay, the bullshit.
What's the
having
bullshit?
to get up every night and explain in front of 20 microphones how bad you are, how you suck. You know what I mean? And to tell you the truth, there's a lot of stupid questions on top of it. So you got to deal with that bullshit. You know, that's probably, and then all of the things that go into a 162 game season, and let alone 35 more out in spring training. You know, they make too much money. They want to go home, hunt, fish, enjoy. I'm going to go on my boat. You know, they don't need whatever money they're going to get paid as a coach. Right. You know, they're going to be with their family, because let me tell you, for any coach and player, there's a price to be paid. You know, listen, you're missing a lot of things with your family. You're gone for half the year to a large degree. You're on the road a lot, you know, and so you miss stuff. So there's this trade-off. You got the best job in the world, one you love, you're getting paid well for it, but you're missing a lot of kid time. You're missing a lot of some wife time, you know. You don't get that back, you know. So that's why I think, you know, you see a lot more what I'll call, and I don't mean this negatively, you don't see a lot of stars come back into coaching.
Right.
They might go into broadcasting, you know, because it's less time to give. It's a time-consuming job you have, because let me tell you, during the season, I'm anal. For 160, I'm anal every day. I'm there with my family was there with me in Chicago, and my kids, but my mind might not have been with them, because I'm anal. I'm thinking, okay, we got Burley going tonight. We got the sideline today for Garland. I got to talk to Contreras about this and this. I'm going to talk to this guy about that. You know, I think coaches, at least I was, more of like, I would, after the game, I'd go home and I wouldn't get to bed till I don't even know when, because I'm thinking everything's going on in my mind of everything that happened that day, every conversation I had with one of my guys, things that happened during the game. I'm thinking about that, because tomorrow I'm prepared to talk to this guy, you know, to talk to certain people about what I got to talk about, to work with certain people about what we got to work on. You know, I was going over my lesson plan the night before and on my drive to the ballpark. I was preparing myself. What am I going to do today? What do I got on my plate today to address? It's time consuming, but it's fun. Let me tell you, I didn't. People used to ask me, "Hey, man, there's got to be stress in your job." And I go, "Well, I don't have a ruler to measure stress. I don't know how to measure that. But all I can tell you is every night on the bench in about the 6th or 7th inning, I'd get a knot in my stomach. How are we going to win this fucking game? What are we going to do to win this game? You know, and then I always, you know, you want to win that night. Every night you want to win that game. But you also have a little bit of eye tomorrow to the next day. I mean, okay, if we can stay away, it's 6-0. If I can stay away from this guy and this guy, we're going to be even more ready tomorrow, because we're going to have those dudes ready for big moments. So it was constantly that, and I enjoyed the heck out of all of that. Thinking, preparing, matchups, who's coming in the game, you know, who we bringing in, so who's coming up this inning, who might we have to have ready this inning, and so on and so forth. You know, you got to ask Ozzy this question, because Ozzy wanted two of the guys that completed those games out of the game. Here's a story I'll give you about Ozzy.
Oh
boy. There's nothing wrong with this. Listen, without Ozzy, we don't win. You know.
True.
You know, without Burley, we don't win.
It's a perfect storm.
Yeah. We he wanted Freddie out. We're playing in California, and we already I think we completed 1, 2. We completed 3 in a row. No, I'm trying to think. I mean, Burley completed his game in Chicago. Okay, anyway, we completed a couple games. Freddie's pitching. Freddie had like to sit a little bit. He had to sit a little bit longer. Ozzy comes to me, goes, well, we got to get him out of the game. He sit too long. And I go, he's out on the mound. He's going ready to go to the inning. He goes, I'm going to go talk to him. I said, go ahead. It's different. Because I knew what Freddie was going to tell him. Get the fuck out of here. I'm completing this fucking game too. That's exactly what he said. The next night, it was kind of the same thing with Contreras. He sat a long time because we scored some runs to get the lead. And he goes, he sat too long. I said, all right, don't worry about it. We got guys up ready. If something goes wrong, we're ready. We're prepared. We've got guys. We'll have somebody ready behind him in case something happens. He wound up retiring in the last 15. What do you want him out for? They'll let us know. The hitters will let us know when somebody's got to come out. But there were so many great stories that pop up because of the conversations that we're having, the questions that you guys are asking. It's making me respond to the question, but it's making me think of other stuff that I hadn't thought about in a while. So it's fun.
I'm glad that you're able to reminisce as well and enjoy it. So as we only got a couple more, and we appreciate all the time that you've given us. As we kind of bring it to today's team and the struggle that is the current White Sox, one of the guys that you should know fairly well is Garrett Crochet, who pitched tonight against Houston.
He's a stud. Early in the year, I saw him after the first start. I said, he's going to be their all-star. The only thing they have to do now is keep him healthy, because you saw the physical stuff that he possessed. And it was like Cease. Cease had tremendous physical stuff. The minute he started throwing that shit over, now he's getting good. But before he threw it over, he wasn't good. It didn't matter what kind of stuff he had, did it? But once he started throwing over, he'd be dominant because it's above average stuff. Crochet's got above average stuff. He seems to talk good, and it's the things that I hear him say. Big, strong, great stuff. If he stays healthy, he's going to be good. And he's going to be their all-star. And, which means they're probably going to trade him in a month, Because, listen, they got another rebuild, right? I mean, what you got to watch now is how quickly they want to get some of these guys off the DL. Jimenez, Moncada. Because if they get them off the DL and they're healthy, they might be able to deal them. They're dealing everybody else, so how can't you think this? How can't you think that is in the cards or could be in the cards? But sooner or later, I mean, we traded Sale, we traded Quintana, we traded Cease. Wait a minute, you got some really good pitchers that you're just letting go. Do you have that much? Are you that good to where you can let these guys go? And listen, I remember saying in a meeting, because we couldn't win. We weren't winning with Chris Sale and Quintana. They pitching their asses off. Quintana was a quality start machine, and so was Sale, but we couldn't win. We just didn't hit the ball enough for them and didn't catch it maybe well enough. But they weren't winning. So it got to the point where we need to look into trading these guys and getting some talent back, but there's going to be a rebuild. And then going back to Renteria, we were promised that we'd see the tail end of the rebuild. That didn't happen. They ended, in my mind, as grateful as I am to the White Sox for all the opportunities. It was a wonderful story, but the ending sucked. Again, we were told we're going to see the tail end of the rebuild. We weren't allowed because we got that team into the playoffs in the 20. And if Crochet didn't get hurt in that game, we beat Oakland and we go on to the next round. And then they cleaned house. They got rid of Renteria, and Renteria did a hell of a job. That team played their asses off, hustled their asses off. We might not have had the greatest amount of ability. Certainly, we weren't stocking the team and buying free agents. It was a rebuild, but that team played hard and never gave up, and that's because of Renteria. And he got the rug pulled out from under his feet on both sides of town. And he's a wonderful guy on top of that. I'm not even talking about, me. I'm talking about him. That was they did him dirty. And listen, maybe karma. There might be karma here, man, because you do people dirty. You don't do the right thing by people. It's gonna come back and bite you in the ass. And I think they're getting a nice bite.
Take us through the conversations you and Rick had before Game 3 against Oakland back in 2020, because it seemed like there was this plan with Dane Dunning.
This is a great question. Rick Hahn was in the meeting.
Okay.
We got to the point where, hey, if Olsen comes up in a big situation with the game on the line, and that could be 1 through 9 innings. So we had somebody ready for Olsen. Well, he did get in trouble. And we brought in Crochet, and Crochet punched his ass out. Okay, so Rick Hahn was in on that meeting, and he was all on board with that. There you go.
So once Crochet gets, I think it was forearm tightness in that game, you guys pull up.
Now we had to use, we had the other people. Listen, this is a time, too, when they're telling us we can't use this guy, can't use that guy. But this was, Crochet was supposed to go that inning and at least 2 more. And then we had other guys, that we had it all planned out, kind of. When Crochet went down, there was 2 or 3 guys that all of a sudden had to be included in the plan that they weren't quite in the plan at the start because of that. I know we used Rode on a relief, but he didn't come in throwing strikes. He
was coming off an injury.
Yeah, and so was Bummer. He was still out there. So we had some guys that were hurt, and trying to lengthen all of that out. But it didn't work out for us in that game. They just scored more runs than we did. Simple. It wasn't like a blowout. And the Crochet injury, and you know what? We didn't have Michael Kopech. Kopech quit on us. He didn't come out that year. Didn't come out. Stayed at home. So we could have used his ass. Because we were short, and we had injury guys that were trying to. You named Ronan. He just came back, and Bummer we had to watch Bummer, and there was something else with another guy out there. I just forget who it was at the moment. But the point I'm making is the general manager was in on that conversation, and he was all on board with bringing in Crochet, and Crochet was allowed to go give us like anything. The way I remember it, he could give us anything we needed as far as innings. But he went a third of an inning, couldn't go anymore. We threw a little bit of a wrench in the works. But we still had guys, and still can't. What was the final score of that game? You remember?
It was a low-scoring game.
Yeah. So we held them.
I think Mazzara had a chance to tie it in the 9th, if I remember correctly.
You know what? I'm not remembering that well right now. But I don't remember it being a blowout. I remember them just kind of beating us.
6-4 final score, yeah.
6-4. And then we gave them a few, I think. Carlos didn't come in throwing strikes. But, Carlos Rodon, let's just talk about him a little bit, because he was a good pitcher. When he's healthy, he's going to give you, he could be a stud. And we saw a little bit of that, but we didn't see much because he was always getting hurt. He was a guy that went down a lot for us. And with that being said, we were still one of the top teams in keeping guys healthy and going out there to pitch. But he had a rough go physically. When he was healthy, he was good. And I remember telling somebody in New York that like last year they got him, he wasn't healthy. And he looks like he's healthy again. And he's going to give him a good year. I think he's going to give him, if he stays healthy, he should be able to give him 6 to 7 innings a start. I don't think right now he's much more than that. And heck, there's not many teams are even asking that, But he was a good pick. Another thing people don't talk enough about, during the rebuild, when we were losing and getting all these great picks, we swung and missed. And 2 guys come to mind. There was a catcher, I forget his name, from Miami. You'll remember. Who?
Zach Collins.
Zach Collins, and the other guy was, and there's more, but these two guys come to mind. Fulmer, right-handed pitcher, 5'10" righty.
Birdie as well.
Who? Birdie got hurt too, but those other guys didn't get hurt. It was just a swing and miss. But drafting Birdie in the first round, being a one-inning guy, that don't make much sense to me either.
Yeah.
You got to be pretty sure of that guy. If you're only going to rely on him for one inning, we see him as a closer. Sometimes you got to pitch more than one inning. But again, he I don't know if he's healthy now. I know his brother was in New York. I think it's his brother.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen Birdie or Fulmer's name anywhere in the last couple of years. Listen, if you didn't make it with us, if you came with us and you had a legitimate opportunity and you didn't make it with us, you didn't make it anywhere. You went home. You took it to the house, or you spun your wheels in the minor leagues. There's nobody that we had that, man, we missed on him. We had him, he just didn't do it with us, and he went somewhere else and kicked some ass. I defy you to find somebody. That's just the way it was.
So, Coop, I got a question from our friend SouthSide Deech. We were talking about Crochet a little bit earlier about some of his injury history. Do you think he can last as a starter going forward now? Do you think
you're talking about Crochet?
Yes.
Crochet?
You think he can hold up?
Listen. Yes, I do. I don't see, and I listen, I'm not with him every day. I don't know what he's doing sidelines. I don't know what he's doing game days. I haven't seen enough video to really watch him. The only thing I remember saying, he needs to stay back. Just stay back and create the power position better. I don't see any major flaws. And he's already had his surgery, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So I think he's going to stay healthy now. Now here's the thing too. If they're talking about he possibly could be traded. Does the team know that's getting him that sooner or later this year they're going to have to shut him down? I mean, they're going to have to watch him.
Right.
He's an injury guy. He's had surgery. I don't know how far he's past that surgery, but there's going to come a point if he stays with the White Sox. You know what? He's our main jewel, man. He's our main piece. We can't screw this one up. We might have to think about shutting him down at some point or limiting him somehow. But if the Yankees got him, let's say, I'm just going to throw a name out there. If the Dodgers got him, they're in a pennant race. Shutting people down, that's not what they're looking to acquire guys for.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I don't wish bad on anybody. I just watch guys and say that won't sustain, or that has got a chance. Good deliveries, and I know what a good delivery looks like. I think the delivery was one of my main strengths as a coach.
Okay.
Put a lot of time into it, a lot of years studying it, looking at it, watching guys that played 50 years ago, the guys that stayed healthy, and they were going every 4 days. So what were they doing? What were the common denominators that the top guys that stay healthy do? And so that's kind of this, because it's no accident. It's not an accident. It's not good luck and bad luck injuries. And now, with the way that pitching is going, and let's heave everyone with everything we got from pitch one, that's why you're out after 4 innings. That's why guys will break sooner. Guys like Burley, Maddox, Glavine, Moyer, they pitched for 12, 13, 14 years because they're just pitching and changing speeds. And again, maybe I got out while the getting was good. All of the changes and things that are going on in baseball. Maybe I got out while it was right time.
Well, Coop, while we're on Crochet here, this question from Steve in the chat. He said, what are your thoughts on the cutter coming back vague after falling out of favor for a little bit? I'm not sure, I agree with
Why did it come
it falling
out?
out, but I wanted to ask you,
Yeah,
as
good
far
question.
as when Crochet in Oakland, when you first saw him, you guys saw that slider fastball, started working on the changeup. So the fact that they brought the cutter as that second plus pitch for him right now, how are you seeing that really
I
take
think,
off?
you know what? 4 years ago, the sabermetric said the cutter was the horseshit pitch. They said the sinker, horseshit pitch, changeup, not that good. They're all coming back. The one pitch that you guys mentioned earlier, what's it called? The sweeper.
The sweeper.
The speed of the pitches tell you what the pitch is. Let's say your fastball is at 95. Well, your slider is usually about 87, 88, about 7 miles. A true slider is about 7 miles out off that. The curveball could be, 10 to 12 off your fastball. The changeup, the more the better. Now, these sweepers, let me tell you something. You're getting around that pitch. Guys that get around pitches and not, yeah, baby, you're right. Yeah, you get around. You don't want to get around pitches. You want to get over pitches. You want to be over the baseball. You don't want to be around it, because around it, you just kind of play with your elbow and just act like you're throwing a ball and watch it move around when you're getting around the ball. It's flat. It's flatter. One thing I'll bring up is this. I saw the kid Cannon in AAA here in Nashville. I went to a game, and he wasn't good. He lost to a team that wasn't about 9, 5, 10 righties and some lefties coming up against him. And he was flat. His angle was too low. And he was pushing balls. He wasn't over the ball. His breaking ball got big. The sweeper, but he wasn't throwing enough strikes. But he wasn't that good. And I saw him the other night, and it was like, oh, he looks like he's got his better angle. He's over the ball. That's the first thing I had to look for, with a pitch. Is he over it? Because I know if you're not over it, you're around it, and that's not good. That's not good for your arm. It's not good for the pitch. It's not good for your health. That's why guys are breaking. And so they're encouraging with the sweeper, I think, to get around the ball. Now, but I have to look. Some of them are slurs. They're looking to give a name to a new pitch or something. All right, that's a breaking ball.
Right.
A slider is a breaking ball. A slurve is a breaking ball. A sweeper is a breaking ball. A curve is a breaking ball. What's the break look like? You want to have depth to the pitch. The curveball is going downward. The slider has depth to it. Now, a cutter is different. A cutter is going to stay a little more horizontal and have a little bit of that. I don't know if you can see my fingers. Like that. Just a little bit. I love the cutter. It was a huge pitch for many of our guys. Loiza being one of them. Burley being one of them. But it's a great pitch to get off the barrel of the bat. If somebody's looking for a fastball, it moves just a little bit and it can get off the barrel. I think it's a great pitch. Listen, I love all pitches. As long as you can throw it for a fucking strike.
It's so true.
I mean, you really can't call a pitch till you throw it 50% of the time over the plate, right? 50%. Like I said before, you can get a beer vendor to do 50%. Major league guys have to do it 60 and above if you want to be good. Here's something I tell people too. Major league players, like I said before, they're gifted, but they get their bodies in the correct positions to hit and with major league efficiency, to throw a baseball, or pitch a baseball with major league efficiency, to catch a ground ball, to throw it across the infield, to catch a fly ball, hit the cutoff guy. Your bodies are in the correct positions. These guys that you see are the best in the world of getting their bodies in the correct positions to do those chores. That's why minor leaguers are minor leaguers, because they ain't quite there yet. That's why college guys are below that. That's why high school guys are below, because they're not in the correct positions to do it over and over and over again. The mechanics are critical in all sports. Your body being in the correct position is important in all sports. It's like golf. You know, if your stance and setup sucks, the ball ain't going where you want. And that's hard enough to do. But major league guys do it. And the top guys that show up every year, they do it more than anybody. It's not like just good luck. It's a lot of work, a lot of practice, a lot of correct repetition. You know, you're looking for perfect practice. You're not, you know what I mean? You want to get in good habits. And I think what's going on with baseball and the big leagues and pitching in particularly is leaking down below into college, high school, and little league, and you're seeing more and more injuries everywhere at ages that they shouldn't be having injuries. You know, hey, let's go out. You know, I'm 16. I got to give up my elbow operated on. You know, my UCL, whatever it's called. I don't know. It didn't matter to me what was hurt with your elbow or shoulder. The bottom line is you're gone. You're down. You can't help us. You can't do the things that you live for because of that. That's why, to me, the number one goal, we set up goals for everybody. We had goals for everybody in certain areas, you know, certain things. And the first goal was to stay healthy. Because if you do, then you got a chance to go out there on an everyday basis and use the gifts that God gave you, man. And maximize it. You know, the biggest sin is to have ability at something and not trying to cultivate it to its top, as far as you can. Those are gifts. You know, I get a kick out of when, you know, listen, I believe God gives you gifts, okay? And everybody's got them, some in different areas than others, you know? These guys are athletically gifted. But then they took that gift and worked it. Little league, high school, college, went through some good times, some tough times, but mostly good, because before you know, holy cow, you're in the big leagues now. There's no league higher than that, you know? And that's one thing I remember telling somebody. You're trying to throw, I forgot who it was. You don't have to throw Hall of Fame pitches. You got to throw quality pitches. You got to throw major league pitches. And the major league pitches, location, movement, stuff. In that order. It's not stuff first. It's not velocity first. It's locating to where you throw it to where you want. You know, and that's how it works with movement and stuff. You know, it doesn't go stuff first and then maybe you throw a strike, because we've already kind of established that a great arm without strikes ain't worth shit. You know, like Nolan Ryan wasn't good until he started throwing it over. Dylan Cease. You know, Gavin Floyd. Contreras. The minute they started throwing it over is when they started to see success. Well, because they gave themselves a chance to have success by throwing it over. You know? And against good teams, let me tell you this. Like the Yankees, here's a lineup. The Yankees had a great lineup. They had Posada, they had Bernie Williams, they had Martinez, they had Jeter. You know, they had the whole lineup was good. Boston had a great lineup. Cleveland at one time had a great lineup with Baerga and, you know, Sandy Alomar and Kenny Lofton. Against good teams, you better pour it in. If you want to beat a good team, you can't be dicking around and throwing like 50 pitches, 25 of strikes, and 25 of balls. You ain't gonna beat them guys. They'll wind up wearing you out, and then they'll swoop in for the kill, because you're gonna be inefficient, throwing lots of pitches. Bam, they're gonna get you. So that's why the first thing pitchers got to do is realize we got to throw it over, you know, and. Again, I'll go back to Gonzo's thing about first pitch. What numbers were important? First pitch strikes. 2 of the first 3 for strikes. Daring them to swing, hoping they swing, wanting them to swing. But if they don't, at the end of 3, 0-2, 1-2. We got your ass. We got you. We're in charge, not you. 2-0, 3-1. If you're a pitcher, you're not going to live too long doing, pitching the number.
So, Coop, before I get to my last question for you, I just have one statement for you, and that is that I'm a pitcher at heart. I grew to love the game on the mound. And from my childhood till now, watching Jenks, Burley, Sale, I love them due to your coordination of them is why I'm here today with my love for this game. And thank you. I just want to say thank you very much for coming on and answering all of my questions and my guys here. But my last question for you, Coop, let me open up my phone again, is, all right, if you and Ozzy, right, you guys get the tandem again, the White Sox have arguably their best pitching depth in the farm system in quite some time. What is one key?
They have the most depth that they've had in quite some time?
Yeah, arguably they've got
that
the
would
best
be
depth
arguably
there.
that would be a little bit of an argument for me too, because that's all propaganda. That's all
right.
That's all bullshit till they walk in the front door.
Well,
I
guess we should
Well,
send
Gonzo loves his prospects.
No, let me tell you, you got to pop them. The organization pushes them, and I get it, because you can't say bad things about them. Well, gee, this guy, this, that, and that. No, you're going to pump them up because you might trade them. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You can't be knocking them down. But that's all well and good, and in many cases it's deserved. But you really don't know until they walk through the fucking door.
But my question is, if you get this opportunity, let's just say, what would be, I guess, your main essential key to developing them to maximize their potential?
There's a new sheriff in town, boys, and here's what we're gonna do. Here's how we're gonna approach things, and it's gonna be the same freaking approach I had, because I saw it work. I know it works. We're going to the basics, because it's amazing how, if you can just be good at the basics, commanding your fastball, getting ahead in the count, getting the first guy out each inning, have the ability to get a ground ball when you want it or need it. It has nothing to do with science. It has to do with developing those pitches and being adept. And like I said, pitching is an acquired skill. You've got to continue to acquire these skills. Once you get there, the hardest thing is not to get to the big leagues. The hardest thing is staying in the big leagues. And because you've got to be able to do certain stuff to meet the criteria of being a major league player. And I'm talking about a major league player on a quality team that's going to win, not a rebuild team. You know what I mean? And I've seen the rebuild stuff. That wouldn't be a rebuild. Wouldn't be something from. I wouldn't want to do another one. It was painful. It was painful to go through that, because let me tell you something. I knew every year I'm sitting on the bench, I knew what we had, and I know what the other team had. There were some years we couldn't compete. We weren't given enough ammo to compete. Some of it was during the rebuild. But like when I said before, I can't remember having a free agent pitcher. As soon as I left, they signed like 4.
Javi Vasquez is like the only one that comes to mind.
They got a starter. They got a closer. I would love to have had that. Somebody to solidify clubs. But listen, it would be doing a lot of the stuff that we're talking about, Gonzo, but getting them to be good at it. And if they can't do it, then we're going to go to that group and the guys you said in the minor league. Let's try somebody else. You know what I mean? But I never gave up on it. We kept working with guys to try to get more and more and more. But again, if they couldn't do it with us, they didn't do it anywhere else. They didn't pick up and find themselves after that. But it would also to say, fellas, now there's no more 4-inning shit. Your response, your job description as a Chicago White Sox starting pitcher. You're going out there for the depth of the game, for the bulk of the game, and the bulk means 6, 7, 8, sometimes 9 if you're good and you're efficient. Don't be happy if you go 4 or 5 innings. No, man. You've got to figure out why I can't go to 5th inning. Why am I not going to 6th inning? How come I can't get there? Something's going wrong. And if you're not going to and listen, there's not many teams that have 5 starters they're in love with. So I can see maybe on some teams, well, we're going to go with an opener. I'd be open to stuff like that. But the problem is we don't have 5 guys. We got 4. And if you're doing it with more than that, more starts than that, I mean, when I see the playoffs and World Series, each team's got 1 or 2 guys, maybe even 3, that can give you length. And length enables you to keep the bullpen as fresh as you can by rotating a little bit, and finding guys that can, the guys that you like when you're winning, but some guys keep things in order. Like we had a guy, Louis Vizcaino in 05. Unheralded. Fans wanted him thrown out of town early in the year because in front of a big crowd, he had a horrible game. But what people don't realize is he had pitched a lot prior to that game, and we needed him to finish the game. We needed him to go out there, and he picked up. Vizcaino picked up all of what I'll call loose innings. No inning is unimportant. None. He picked up all the loose innings if we were up by a lot, God forbid down by a lot, but that didn't happen much. And he enabled us to keep things in order, to have the Hermanson ready in the 9th, to have Jenks ready in the 9th, to have Polite ready. The guys that we were using, tied or ahead or 1 run down. He kept it in order because he went out there and sucked it up, and his numbers were good. He had good numbers, but he had a couple games that blew one game I remember he didn't pitch well, but he still went out there and sucked it up for us. And I liked him for that. I liked him because of that, because he didn't care. He wanted to do well and everything, but it didn't happen. And people in town that really don't know anything, listen, I see some stuff on X or Twitter, and I see articles, and that's a sewer. That's a sewer of people that shouldn't have the right.
Did you say a sewer?
A sewer.
So you have a Twitter account that you use?
Yes,
He's got a burner.
Yes, I do.
Oh, okay.
And I do it for a few reasons. I have Twitter. But it's a platform for people that shouldn't have a platform. They're fans that really don't know, but think they do, which makes them even more annoying. And from time to time, I'll comment back. Not something that somebody says that's good, I might say something. And I might say something with that you're so freaking bad that you need to be told that you're fucking stupid. But yeah, it's listen, they all think they can coach, they all think they can play. They might have played little league ball or high school ball. Well, didn't we all play? But that doesn't give you the experience that they all have in the big leagues. Every coach in the big leagues was a player, played in the minor leagues, played in the big leagues, coached in the minor leagues, coached in the big leagues. They paid their dues, and they learned the game. It's their profession. It's not the profession of the people that have the commentary about it. You know what I mean? Or the comments about it on Twitter, and really even in the media that follows the team.
So, Coop, not White Sox related. I gotta ask, where do you rank Johan Santana as far as left-handed pitchers in the history of the game?
You know what? Geez, that's a hard question. All I can tell you is I've seen them all. I've seen all of the guys that you can bring up. Oh, in 20 years, I saw Verlander, all of them. Johan Santana. Johan Santana was one of the top guys that I saw because we had his pitches. We knew when he was throwing changeups, and which means we had an idea when he was throwing fastball too. We still couldn't get him. He was that good, and he poured his shit in. He wasn't only 2-1. He was heading to 3-1 and got the 3-1 strike the balls. He's just saying, "Here, come on, boys, let's play. You want to play? Oh no, you don't want to play? Can't play with me." You know what I mean? He was just he had great stuff, great pitches, command, and a great changeup. He could tell you he was going to throw a changeup, and they still get you out. He's one of the better ones, and I do remember he threw a whole lot of pitches in his no-hitter in New York. I just think he wore out. I mean, he
Absolutely.
I didn't think he had a bad delivery at all. He's one of the top guys I saw. Verlander would be up in the top. If you name some more guys, I could tell you what my thoughts on those guys are too. Scherzer and when Scherzer and Verlander were in Detroit, they were a tough matchup. They were good, and we still took care of them. We still did pretty well.
Clayton.
Who?
Kershaw.
I didn't see it. That's when it was still separated. We would play a little bit. Kershaw is one of them.
Abreu had him quite a bit.
Huh?
Abreu had a really good career against Kershaw. Against Cy Youngs in general, Abreu always hit well.
Yeah, that's that story there. And I did answer somebody on Twitter about that. They wanted to bring him back. But it's emotion. You're talking from an emotional standpoint. You want to bring him back because why? He was when he was there. He was probably the third best righty that I had seen for the White Sox. Frank being one. Konerko, Jermaine Dye, they were up there. Now, Jermaine Dye wasn't here for that long either. I don't know how many years he played and how many years Jose got here a little late age-wise. But, boy, it sure seems like he's lost it, And I know he went to the minor leagues to catch. He's a wonderful guy. He was a great hitter. He never led us to anything, For people to want him back is simply from an emotional standpoint. Could they do it as a PR move? Maybe. How many fans are you going to get back? You only get 12,000. It's not like you're going to do it to get people back. He's a wonderful guy, and he was a heck of a hitter. But the idea about bringing him back, that ship sailed.
Coop, weren't you advocating for Strasburg at one point?
Not advocating for him. I thought he was a tremendous young pitcher. Tremendous looking future. Not unlike a Crochet, let's say. Not unlike anybody that is highly touted and comes up and has got great stuff like he did. But what happened was I'd never seen him in person. We went to Washington. We played. He did all right. He did good. I don't remember the game exactly, but I'm watching him, and he did some stuff that I said, I don't know about this. I don't know if he's going to be able. He's having trouble now. This was like his first year, or his second year, and he was having trouble after 80 innings. He was coming up with some problems. And I thought to myself, well, what's going to happen when he's got to go to 180 to 200? And he did things in his delivery that I don't teach. And I'm not in love with. And they were really the same things that Pryor did. Mark Pryor from the Cubs, and they were really the same things that. What's the other guy's name? Pryor and
Kerry
Pryor,
Wood?
Kerry Wood. I'm sorry. Sometimes names slip me. But they both did. All three of them did similar things, and without getting too crazy about it, he had a different type. They all had the same type of arm action, which was upside down, which the elbow leads, and then you flip your hand up instead of the hand leading. The hand leading is perfect. Can't get better than that. The elbow lead, a lot of guys do it, but the elbow lead guys are not over the top guys, higher angle guys. The three guys we're talking about were higher angle. And that's when I thought, I don't know about this. I don't see him staying healthy. He's showing signs now. So we came back off that trip, and where I went wrong was, looking back on that, I shouldn't have commented on another pitcher on another team. But they asked me what I thought about him, and I told them what I thought. Well, Kenny Williams gets mad at me because he got a phone call from their GM or something like. This is what he told me. I think he was lying. And I said to him, I said it and meant it. You know, they asked me a question. I said it and meant what I said. I said, give him my number. Have him call me. You know, but because I was getting in trouble because of that. Because I remember we were sitting in the clubhouse, in the coaching room, and the story comes on the TV right there with us. We're all in the room. And I go, oh, shit. You know, because I knew what they were going to, I go, oh, fuck. You know, they're going to say something what I said here. And they did. And I still don't back off it. I still say what I said, and I believed it. And it kind of happened. You know, he was actually able, though, to get healthy again and be part of a world championship team. But his health that's the thing that did him in. You know, he wasn't able to stay healthy. You know, if he had, then I think he might have been a Hall of Famer if he does it, because he's going to strike out a lot of guys. He's going to win a lot of games, and he already is a world champion. It was sad because he was a very, very talented guy. From a fan's perspective, from my perspective, you love to watch these guys pitch. But again, I'm so lucky that I had the best seat in the house to watch the best pitchers in the game pitch, and I watched them all. I watched them closely. And if I did, you know, we did a lot of research looking into why guys were good. It's, you know, I'm going back. I'm talking about going years ago, and looked at guys and any video again. Well, why did this guy last so long? Why did he have such a successful career? Well, there's common denominators that are there with those guys that they do with their body. The rest is God given. You know, their stuff. You have what you have. Burley had 88, you know, and was an extremely successful pitcher. And other guys haven't. I don't care whether you throw it 98, 88, or 68. You got to throw it over. And I was lucky to have the time I did.
Well, perfect segue for you, Coop. This is our last question. And again, we're very grateful for your time tonight. You mentioned Kenny Williams. You know, we're looking at this White Sox team, as you mentioned early on, historically bad potentially this season. There's been a lot of discussion about Kenny Williams and Rick Hahn and their relationship. And obviously the fan base is very upset with Jerry Reinsdorf. Just take us through your relationship and experiences with all three of those guys.
One, Jerry Reinsdorf is a wonderful guy. Jerry, listen, he gave me opportunity to follow my passion at the big league level for a long time. There's not many guys that had the run that I had that time. You don't see that much. So I'm grateful and thankful for him. But like any owner of any business, if you own a delicatessen, you're not going to be putting in more than you take getting in. You know, you're not gonna lose money. You know, you know what I mean. You and the people work. I was happy to work for Jerry. Jerry, this is your team. You run it the way you want. I'm here as the coach. That's all I do. You know, Kenny Williams, great guy. He was the architect of the 05 team. You know, good, he did a hell of a job. I know Rick and Kenny wanted to go out and get players, but Jerry, from time to time, would say, "No, that's above the budget. We're not making that money. We can't pay this guy." You know, so okay, out of loyalty for it, we were all loyal. They couldn't have had a more loyal guy than me. You know, for that time, they couldn't have. But Kenny did a heck of a job as a GM. And he had a tough guy because the other guy, like Jerry, was tough. He wasn't going to open the wallet wide all the time. But Jerry gets a bad rap, you know. Jerry shouldn't get the rap he gets, okay, because he's a wonderful guy. He does a lot of good things for people in town, all over the place that nobody knows about, in the facility, outside the facility. He's brought a world championship baseball to the White Sox, first one in like, well, I don't know, 900 years. And he got 6 with the Bulls. So what GM and what owner in what city has done more? Yep. You know, so, you know, everybody's got somebody they want to beat up on, and Jerry seems to be getting beat up pretty good. But I know him to be a good guy. I know him to be a good boss. I was, again, lucky to work for him. And again, Kenny and Jerry, they were the 2 guys that gave me the most opportunity, so I'm grateful for that. I don't like how they ended it, but that's the way it went. Rick came in and was the general manager, and Rick and Kenny were friends. They worked together. I never saw problems between them or anything like that. Kenny was the president. Rick was the GM. Everything had to stop at Kenny's desk, including my firing. You know, so I held nothing personal to them. You know, I don't think badly of them at all. You know, they did their jobs like I did mine. You know, and you know, when the boss, Jerry's old school. You know, he's not going to be paying out more than he's taking in. If you're winning and you're in the hunt, he'll start saying, maybe we should, you know, and maybe we'll pick up a guy here and there. We did that. You know, I mean, Carl Everett was one. I don't know what that took. He was a piece of the 05 team. And there's other guys I'm sure you guys could name. They shouldn't get a bad rap. None of them should get a bad rap. I that's just my feelings. Just like I don't think any coaches that we have should get a bad rap. I don't think I don't know enough about the new manager, Grifol, or the new general manager. I'd like to know what the plan is because it's kind of skewed to me when I watch what's going on, and it's just a constant changing of people, you know. And if they trade Crochet, which they could because they traded Sale and they traded Burley and they let Burley go and they let Cease go. They could do it with Crochet and the center fielder Robert, and they might do it. What are they going to have then? Right now, Crochet and the kid, I think his name's Fetty.
Yeah.
They're the 2 days they got a chance. You know, you need more than that to be serious. You know, that's one thing with the 05 team. We knew every day. That team knew every day with the guys we were running out there to start that game. We got a chance to win this game. After a while, it was like it was on automatic pilot. Nothing could stop what we had going on. Even if you were looking to diabolically mess it up somehow and screw it up internally, you couldn't because it had a life of its own. But the biggest compliment you can give a starting pitcher, I think, or one of the biggest ones, we believe that we can win when he pitches. That's a big compliment. And with Garland, Freddie, Burley, Contreras, El Duque, that team believed. That believed. When they're walking in the front door, all of the different types of games that we won, they all kind of knew, I think, that no matter what's happening, by the end of this game, we're winning this. Because that's kind of what we do. That's how we've been doing it. It was, and that's a word too, though. Confidence is a huge word. I've seen plenty of guys with gifts and ability, but it's the guys that had that and confidence. Like you could see, like Ricky Henderson had confidence. He believed, and he would tell you. Like when I played in the Yankee, Ron Guidry was confident, but he was quiet. But the confidence and believing in your ability and yourself in any sporting event is huge. If you don't have it, you're not going to win at that moment. You're not going to win whatever battle you got at that moment. If you were like, and we had a bunch of guys, and even the guys that I would say weren't overly confident early in the year, they all hopped on. They all hopped on that confidence train. And again, that's what one of the characteristics I think that team had all the way through. It got a little wobbly at one point. And then once we clinched, like I said before, we saw death and we didn't die. So we were no longer afraid of it. And watch out now. We were a buzzsaw in the playoffs, cutting up anybody in our way. I think we were like 11-1, but I think we were like 19-1, counting the last week of the season as well. So we were hot.
Well, Coop, we appreciate the time. Before we let you go, is there anything that you would like to say, any message you have for White Sox fans that rooted for you for 18, 19 seasons?
Thanks for any of the support you gave me and the team. It was appreciated. Things have to get better, but I'm not a real fan of bad baseball, and that's what's being played on the South Side right now. But it's got to get better. You would think sooner or later. But no, other than thanks for the support. And we were getting smaller crowds, and all of a sudden we started winning. And they started coming out of where we had bigger crowds on the road, and all of the White Sox fans in California, in Arizona, when we go out there, they were coming out of the woodwork, and then before you know it, in the playoffs, everybody's coming there. We had celebrities and people coming in the clubhouse. We had the guy from Journey. There was other people, but nothing tops the Yankee clubhouse. When I was with the Yankees, you'd have the Saturday Night Live people coming in, and I'm talking about in '85. You had President. Oh, look, there's President Nixon. Oh, look, there's Howard Cosell in the clubhouse. In Chicago, I remember the coach of Notre Dame, the guy that was with Boston, the Patriots.
Kelly.
No.
Oh, wait.
Heavy set guy.
Yeah, O'Brien, right?
No. Charlie
Weiss, yeah.
There you go.
Weiss.
Him, the guy from Journey, the one guy, he's an actor. He wasn't with us all year, but he looked for a photo op. I'm not big on
the John Cusack.
Yeah, man.
I hate that guy.
Yeah. But when you win, people come. And when people come, you got more money to spend. That's what people got to remember. You want a team to get better, you got to go out and support them. And the White Sox, we were good we had like 12,000 strong. That's not enough. I don't know. Like I see the Cubs. I was always jealous of the Cubs because during my run there, we killed them. We always took care of them. And then they got good. With Rizzo and those guys, and the other name, Bryant and those guys, they won their world championship. But they always were selling out. The games there, White Sox Cub games were great because it was like a Jerry Springer episode. People are fighting, people are hammered, and women are exposing themselves. And it's unbelievable. And there was fight breaking out everywhere. But I saw around Wrigley, I enjoyed going there to play it because it was a fun place to watch a game. The dugout sucked, the clubhouse sucked, the bullpen sucked. But wow, what an atmosphere other than that. And the place is packed. And I remember when they fixed up around the field, I said, this is like an ATM machine around here. It's all Cub stuff here, Cub stuff there, and they're just making money hand over fist, and they have money to spend. You look at the clubs that are spending the big money: the Dodgers, the Yankees, Boston will do it.
Mets, Padres.
The Mets now will do it. Padres, heck, the Dodgers. And how about the off season? Every free agent was signing with them. I said they're getting everybody.
Yeah,
but. Listen, free agency doesn't mean, or picking a free agent team, that doesn't mean you're going to win a championship, but it does mean when you spend money that you're going to be competitive every day. You'll have a chance to win. What I was trying to say before, too, I'll end my thought with this. My last thought is I knew who the other team had. I knew who we had. I knew if we could match up or not. You go by position by position. There were many years where we were left a little bit, we weren't given enough ammo. Like I think Robin Ventura gets a bad rap. He wasn't given enough ammo to win. Not against the other teams I saw. We were a bit short. But he gets a bad rap. He was a wonderful guy. And I don't think he was given enough to where he could really show what he might be able to be as a manager. He's a good baseball guy, good guy on top of a great sense of humor. That's all I got, guys. I feel like I'm talking your ear off. I'm good.
Coop, you've been an incredible guest. Anytime you want to shoot the shit and reminisce about your days, you just let us know. We'll be happy to have you on again.
Well, I tell you what. Let's give you guys and your listeners, because you're an up and coming show. That's why I like small businesses. I like to help out small businesses, and you've
checks in the mail.
You've helped me out because I enjoyed the conversation. I'll come back on, but let's give them a month rest or something like that.
Okay, you got it.
Back on and I'll watch some more of the White Sox game. We can get more into the White Sox if you want, because I watch some, but not enough. I'll watch a little bit more to where I can say, man, this guy got to go. This guy got to go. Whatever. But thanks for having me.
We appreciate the time. After the trade deadline, once we start seeing some of these youngsters come up, that's where we need Don Cooper to. That's where we need the sideline reports.
That could be ugly. If they trade, hell, if they trade anybody. And I heard DeJong's name. That's always an interesting time because they say people are thinking about. They might be thinking about getting traded. First, you got to have somebody that wants you to get traded. That's one thing. But if they trade DeJong, if they trade Moncada, if they trade Robert, if they trade Crochet, if they trade Kopech, what do they got left? So I could see this going further south.
Oh boy.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I hate to say it, but I mean, what are they? And I don't know. Again, if the plan is a rebuild, right? It's a rebuild.
Again,
if it's a rebuild, there's got to be some more guys traded to get some more talent back. Unless you think, Gonzo, you were talking about the minor leagues. You think you got enough down there ready to come back next year and the year after year, and to be able to keep that chain going and get good? I don't know. I don't know the minor league system that well. Hell, man, you're trading enough guys to get talent back. You should be getting some. And if you're going to be getting better draft picks, ain't you? You can't miss on.
They get number 5 next month, and then theoretically next year they can't pick higher than 10 because of another one of the new rules.
You miss out on first round, second round guys. That hurts. That hurts big time, and that hurt us. Okay, we'll talk soon. Thanks for having me.
Coop, thanks. Take care.
Thanks, Coop.
Awesome stuff from Don Cooper.
Oh my God.
What a legend. That was 2 hours. He just spoke for 2 hours plus and gave us all of his unfiltered thoughts. What was your biggest takeaway there from Coop?
How authentic he is. Like it was just like we was talking to one of the guys. Like
He is one of the guys.
We gave him an opportunity to open up. It really felt like he was itching to talk ball again. And I'm glad we gave him that. It was great.
Next time I want to call Senior, get the both of them on again.
That would give some fireworks. Just let the two of them go because we wouldn't be able to get a word in.
No.
We would probably wind up on 670 to score the next day too because of it. But my biggest takeaway from that was a statement he made with El Duque. You just pitched. What was it again? You pitched the most iconic inning in
It was
White
the most
Sox
important
history.
inning in White Sox history.
Yeah, that was awesome.
All right. Well, since we are now well over 2 hours, let's just fly through the end of what we had for the rest of this show. Chris Getz spoke to the media yesterday. The gist of it was everyone's blowing up his phone because there's a bunch of players that people want to acquire from the White Sox, which I think is good. Obviously, nothing has developed and transpired into a deal yet, but it seems like for middle of June that the chatter is already hot. The biggest quote that stood out to me was him saying that he doesn't want to put a timeline yet on a potential contention window once more. So what were your guys' takeaways from Chris Getz and his, I guess, state of the White Sox he had yesterday? It's not pretty.
Yeah, I was going to say, it felt like this is a man who got his feet dug in. He's very comfortable with the job. And for him to say that there's no timetable for contention when you're going to finish 50 to 60 games below 500, what do you mean you don't know when the next time we're going to be winning? Like, do you know who it's like what OJ be talking about with Grafal. Do you know who you're addressing here? So it was just a little odd to me. At least Rick Hahn told us, hey, the 2-3 years, we'll try to give it a go. Chris Getz gave me nothing.
True. We didn't get much from Rick Hahn. Like, we ended up here where we are today. Gonzo, what were your thoughts?
Similarly with what you said, Slav, and I saw that like on White Sox Twitter, what did Coop call it again? He called it the
sewer.
The sewer. So the sewer was getting on. It was basically off of Merck's, and all the beat writers' takes on it. But they were saying like, how can you not have a plan? But to be honest with you, I think that's the most important part of that press conference is like, how could he have a plan when he doesn't have a confirmed really core yet? There's still, assets he's going to get and to build around. And until they actually get here and we actually see them and how they actually truly develop in the big leagues, we're not going to have a real concrete window until that happens. So from my big emphasis from this moment is he should at least at this moment know with what is here right now, the decisions that have to be made on the people that are the players that are here now. That is what he should focus on. And like, we're about to see a month away, these firm decisions on Robert, Crochet, Kopech, Fetty, the guys that are here that he was, before he was hired, those decisions should be made by now. And I'm all here to see it. I want to see where Chris Getz's stance is going forward. And we're about to find out what that picture is going to look like here shortly.
Yeah, next 6 weeks will be interesting. There's going to be plenty of rumors. I think we saw Ken Rosenthal reporting that trade talks are, in deep with Chris Getz. And we saw Jim Bowden, I think, propose a mock 7-for-3 trade between the Dodgers and the White Sox, where Crochet, Kopech, and Robert all go to the Dodgers for rushing and like 7 of the top 14 prospects or something ridiculous from the Dodgers. That's obviously not realistic. I think the White Sox probably lose value in a trade like that, but I think there's a very good chance Crochet, Robert, Fetty, Kopech, Flexen, Brebbia. Eddie, yeah, I mean, like all these guys are going to be gone. So, like we mentioned with Coop, maybe in the second half we can have him watch some of these youngsters who will be coming up and get his thoughts on them. One of the guys who has been really doing well lately is Jonathan Cannon. Here's his chart from his last start against the Astros. 1 out away from a complete game. Pedro Grifol pulling him in the 9th inning with 2 on and 2 out after he gave up a couple soft hits that prevented him from the complete game shutout. But very cool moment for him getting his first major league win. What have your guys' thoughts been on Cannon? His last 2 starts against Houston and Seattle, both obviously lineups not 100% and not hitting all that well. However, he looked really good.
Yeah, so the main takeaway from me is through those 2 starts is obviously he doesn't have really any particular pitch that's really overpowering where the guys are just striking out on for a big whiff percentage. But what you do see out of that chart was that he's mixing it up to the point where he's getting weak contact and he's getting guys to at least chase these pitches based off the sweeper, you know, the cutter and some of the other stuff he's got with that changeup as well. But he's just, at the end of the day, he's just a pitcher. He's a guy that's going to mix and match and get through the game efficiently. And what we saw, he was an out away from a complete game. And if you can get that from a guy, even if he's going to be back end of your rotation, that's a hell of a guy to have, you know, and with your pitching staff right now. And the fact that he's a rookie that is developing, it seems, and, you know, he took a licking early on after his first debut, and now he's starting to turn it around, and really we're seeing the best out of him at the moment.
So if you look at my headliner on my name, it's John Cannon's command. What stuck out to me is that front hip sinker that he was throwing to left-handed batters. That's not a pitch that you want for a swing and miss. That's a pitch to generate some weak contact. That is a command pitch, especially for a right-handed pitcher. Another pitch that he was throwing was that first pitch changeup. That's another command pitch because it's very easy for it to float out of your hand and out of the zone and be non-competitive. The fact that he is absolutely drilling the strike zone with these 2 finesse pitchers while he's still a baby in the major leagues. Now, granted, like you said, Slavko, these are not, let's just say, top tier lineups right now, but you still have to execute. And when Coop was talking about right-handed pitchers throwing right underneath left-handed batters' hands, this is what Jonathan Cannon is doing. He's literally taking the bat out of their hands without, you know, causing whiffs, without forcing swing and miss. He's letting hitters get themselves out. That's a mark of a good veteran pitcher. And he's, 24 years old? I mean, 4% walk rate, Gonzo.
I like what we saw with him and what we saw with Drew Thorpe in his debut, with the mentality of just going after guys, filling up the strike zone, you know, and it's fitting after what we just heard Don Cooper's talk about for 2 hours. Pour your shit in for strikes. Like, it doesn't have to be overwhelming stuff if you can locate it and you can throw strikes. Getting ahead in the count, that was always something that I would kind of keep an eye on with Dylan Cease on starts where he'd struggle. He'd fall behind 1-0 or when he's walking guys. And you're looking at what Garrett Crochet tonight, 8 strikeouts, 1 walk. Jonathan Cannon, Drew Thorpe, he gets touched up in his second start because he starts walking guys. As long as you are limiting the walks and throwing strikes, these guys have a chance. And I like Cannon and Thorpe, both of their kind of mentality and mindset on the mound. So, Gonzo, take us through the upcoming schedule. When do we get to see these guys pitching again?
Yeah, so tomorrow they wrap up the series at home with Flexen, and to be determined on Houston's side of it. But this weekend, we're going on the road to Detroit, Friday through Sunday. Friday's matchup is Fetty versus Flaherty. Saturday, Thrope, who we just talked about, is going off against Maeda.
You sure it's not Thorpe?
Huh?
You sure it's not Thorpe?
You say Thrope?
He said
No,
Thorpe.
Thorpe.
You said Thrope.
All right. I apologize.
All right. Jesus Christ.
Sunday is Cannon, who we just talked about, versus
Mark Berkeley.
Sorry, I Thorpe was like from the title from last week. I've got a lot on my mind.
You said Thrope.
I thought, yeah, I don't know what I said. But Reese Olson.
Rami
against
like
Cannon.
Tommy.
You sick.
that's the Detroit series with Riley Green batting 256, 14 home runs, 37 ribbies. He's the hot bat in Detroit. Out of this series, though, I can see them. I can see him taking one in Detroit, but I still see him losing the series. Justin, take us with Detroit with that pitching staff with Flaherty and Olsen in there too.
So
And Casey Mize is back.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I still got to see more out of Casey Mize. This has only been one start. He struggled for the most part, but Gonzo, Flaherty, and Reese Olson right now are on the heater. Reese Olson just came back from Atlanta, where he literally choked the Braves out. He actually outpitched Max Fried, who
Atlanta
didn't.
chop.
Yeah, exactly. But I think where we have to be careful is the role players for Detroit, like the Mark Cannas, the Giovanni Urshela's. You have to get these guys out, because these are the little gnats that are going to hit the 2-run singles that break your back, that has Pedro Grifol walking back and forth from the top step of the dugout to the fucking mound 3 and 4 times within a game. Like, those are the guys you have to execute against. Now, Detroit has a creative player named Winsell Perez. If you look at the slash line, nothing jumps out at you. But when you watch the kid play, his approach at the plate, his instincts on the base pad, this is a guy that within any point of the game can change just off of his instincts. The White Sox have to be very privy and keep their head on a swivel, because you could very well get swept.
Well, I mean, because they suck, so they could very well be swept against literally any other team.
No, but I'm saying, like, Slavko, there's only probably one or two series where I said the White Sox will get swept. I'm telling you right now, this is a trap, because we could go in thinking we're going to knock the piss out of Kenta Maeda, and he hangs a quality start with 10 Ks on us, because we get lulled to sleep, because we see Mark Canna in the lineup. Oh, and Justin Malloy is struggling as a young player. We don't even know if these guys are going to fucking meetings. This could be very well the scouting report for the Detroit Tigers in regards to the Chicago White Sox. Like, you cannot get lulled to sleep. This is a situation to where you got Fetty pitching
20 and 55 and get lulled to sleep against anybody, you deserve to lose 130 games.
I think you got Fetty pitching. You've been scoring some runs. I know tonight is a little bit different, but it's Houston. You know he's going to lose. You have
that's going to be a pitching duel.
Put some games together.
Justin, we can talk about, all we want about Reese Olson, but I just want to highlight here with that first matchup with Fetty and Flaherty. This is Flaherty, this is back with what he's doing right now. He's looking like he did
better than
1921 when he was dominating. Yeah.
So this is as good as he's looked since pre-injury, in a while.
They got him at a bargain price, which I was kind of hoping we would get that bargain price in last offseason, my big plan that I gave last October. But shout out to Detroit. They got a bargain deal, and your boys got Fetty though. Yeah, it's gonna be a pitching duel on Friday night. But next week after the Detroit series, they are at home with another team that's probably going to sweep us, the Los Angeles Dodgers.
They don't have Mookie.
Never heard of
it. Monday's matchup is Crochet versus James Paxton. Tuesday is Flexen versus Walker Buehler. Buehler struggled in Colorado, but this is his get-right matchup. Our White Sox. And Ohtani, I've never heard the guy, but he's batting .316, 20 home runs, 49 ribbies as a designated hitter.
The Dodgers are in the wrong place at the wrong time. I'm going to leave it at that. They're hurt. They're hurt right now. Okay. Number 2, Walker Buehler is literally the worst pitcher in the National League. There's no other pitcher I wouldn't want starting for my team, if anybody else. So we could very well steal these 2 games against the Dodgers. They had Andy Pages batting cleanup. All right.
Future White Sox.
Huh? You said what?
Future White Sox.
Hopefully.
I would like that.
Okay. All right. Picks to click before we get out of here.
So our boy Justin, 1 pick to click last week with Paul DeYoung, who had basically at the end of the day, both him and Robert had 1 home run, but DeYoung had 2 more hits than Robert. So Justin, Well, clap to you. You got your 4th victory of the season. It goes 5 wins for me, 4 from you, and Junior and
I
Slav.
feel like Gonzo had 3 wins 3 weeks ago. Hasn't won shit since. Now he's got 5. How does that work? Go ahead.
He does the math.
So I'll let you go back to the receipts, Slav, and tally up my victories for me.
Oh,
But the order for
victories
tonight,
that you just gave yourself.
the order for tonight goes Jay, me, Slav, and OJ. Guys, quick mention here: OJ's picking last because Gavin Sheets didn't have any hits last week. So
That was his pick to click. Oh my god,
that was his pick to click.
That's embarrassing.
So, Jay, you can't pick DeYoung. DeYoung's off the board. Take it away.
I'm feeling. Give me Nicky Lopez. Give me a Nicker villain.
This is your wow.
I'm trying to stay on the streak.
All right. I want to further my gap with Pantera again.
Fuck you, Gonzo.
Slab. Back to you.
I'm taking Andrew
K
Vaughn.
machine.
You said what?
He's a K machine.
Luis Robert?
Yes.
Yeah, Gonzo's a cheating machine. I want Andrew Vaughn. Let's see if he keeps it going in June.
He had the only 2 ribbies
I
yesterday.
picked up Andrew Vaughn in Dynasty, and I've been rewarded handsomely.
I think Vaughn's 3 of his last 4 RBIs were fielder's choices.
Yep. He was 1 for 3 with 2 RBIs. Yes.
Anything to get me over the 85 hump. That's gonna be a grind.
I don't think Vaughn's getting over 85 RBIs. I think he's
No shot.
I'm gonna give OJ Sosa. Should I give him Sosa over Sheets?
Well, he said Sheets first, so give him Sheets.
Okay, I'll give him Sheets.
See, he's just fucking taking liberties.
I
Yeah,
felt
think I'll
bad.
give him someone that he didn't want.
Yeah, bingo.
Motherfucker. All right, so who do we got? What's the picks?
Picks are Justin's going with Nicky Lopez from Naperville.
I can't believe you had the first pick and you took Nicky fucking Northbrook Lopez.
It happens, man.
Watch him go 8 for 14.
I need it. OPS.
So I picked Pantera, you picked Vaughn, Slav, and OJ's going with Sheets.
This is going to be a real challenge in the second half when all the hitters are minor leaguers.
Man.
That's my time to shine.
Hopefully they bring back Dominic Fletcher.
They're not calling up Tim Elko, guys. Sorry, Gonzo.
No, that's Jay's boy.
Anyone in the minor leagues is your boy.
Yeah, you don't realize that, Gonzo?
All right, last thing before we get out of here. Major League Baseball lost an absolute legend, one of the best of all time. Many think the best of all time, Willie Mays, dying yesterday at the age of 93. Kind of a sad moment considering they were doing the series at Rickwood Field in Birmingham. Incredible talent, like an ambassador for the game of baseball. Just one of the legends of the game, 660 career home runs. Just crazy what he was able to do on the field for so long, 24-time All-Star. He played that many seasons and was an All-Star that many seasons. Absolutely insane career. A big loss for all of Major League Baseball. Any thoughts or memories for you guys about Willie Mays?
Well, to be honest with you, it's a sad day because, like, that's one of the guys you want to emulate playing the game of baseball. You know what I'm saying? Like, as a kid, you want to make the Willie Mays catches running around the yard, even in Little League. You know, my heart aches for the Giants organization, most importantly, the Mays family. It's one of those losses that it's going to stick on Major League Baseball because, like, you don't get those back. You're not going to get another Willie Mays. Like, I don't know if you guys remember the 99 All-Star game in Boston where they did the All-Century team.
Yeah,
like
the Ted Williams entrance was like legendary.
You know what I'm saying? Like, Slav, that's something I'm going to rewatch the rest of my life just for that pregame ceremony. And Willie Mays was a part of that. And, you know, on my other podcast, Bad Guy Radio, we did the Rushmore for center field. And Willie Mays was definitely on there. And his social consistency, his excellence on the field, like, you can't duplicate it. And I don't think we really take a step back and look at what he was able to accomplish in a very turbulent America at that time, especially for athletes. So,
For black athletes, especially.
Yeah, so it's a tough loss, but at the same time, these things happen. These legends can't stay forever. It just sucks, man.
So I thought that Bob Nightingale provided an awesome tribute to Willie with his post or his tweet he did on Twitter that Willie actually gave on Monday night in Birmingham. For those of you on Twitter, go look up Bob Nightingale, his Twitter page to find it. But it was a remarkable quote. Like Jay, and you got to put Willie in your Mount Rushmore of center fielders. Between him and Griffey, there was no other two that really better to do it out there in center field, and what they even off the field, what they gave to their communities and to baseball in general. He's a legend of the game. I give my cap to him. Just remarkable player.
Certainly a big loss for all of Major League Baseball. I watched a video yesterday of Vin Scully meeting Willie Mays for the first time, and they were both like, this was, I want to say 2016. So Willie Mays would have been like 87, something along those 88. And Vin Scully was certainly up there in age as well. And just the respect that those two legends of the game had for each other and like admiration for what they do in their craft was just really, really cool to see. So 93 years old. God bless him. Willie Mays, a hell of a career, a hell of a life. If a lot of us could achieve a quarter of what he was able to achieve and the impact that he made, the world would be a whole lot more of a better place. So rest in peace to Willie Mays. Thank you for everybody listening and watching to the Blackout Show. We'll see you next week.